So I'm going to try another video, update video with the retracts for the turret. So these are the mounting holes. Focus right there. And I just drilled out the two of the existing holes that are in the retracts, and I drill them right through to the other side. So it's actually this one here and this one here, and I just drill straight through. You got to be careful. You go nice and straight. You don't want to go off or out at all. You can actually see on this one here that's open. This is one of the holes right here, and it is really close to that bearing. So you want to be really careful. The other thing that I have here is a bolt that goes through here, and what happens when your retract comes up, your worm gear isn't tight up against the switch yet. So what happens is it's a little sloppy and it's a little bit loose. So what happens is your retract comes up and it rests against this bolt here, and then it takes a lot of the strain off the worm gear that goes inside. So what it'd be here is it goes up and down this worm gear, and then this just follows the path here, and then this just swings down for your retracts to be down and up. And what happens is when it's not resting against anything, there's always a little bit of play. You can see there's a little bit of slop in here. So your retracts will, your landing gear will move around a little bit and wiggle around. So what happens when it rests up against the bolt that would end up going right through here, it just takes the slop out of the play out of right here. Keeps it nice and tight. While I'm in here, you can see right here and right here are two little switches that turn the motor on and off when your retracts go up and down. And in order to get it to stay out at a bit of an angle, what you have to do is make up a little spacer, which is right here, and I made that out of JB weld, which is just a two-part epoxy. And you just take the shaft out, put a little bit of tape over the threads, and then I just took clay and I just built it up just to make a little bit of a box right here. You want to make it as close as you can so you don't have to file and sand all day to make it fit. And then what this does is it's a new stopper, so it'll touch this switch, which will turn the servo off and then keep your landing gear at a bit of an angle so it's not straight up and down. This is the axle that I've been using, and what would happen then is if it was slide in there, if it was to go straight up and down, the nut would actually hit the outside of the housing. It would actually have to come out to here in order for it to work properly. If you want it to come straight up and down, all you gotta do is find something with a 5mm shaft that's long enough to go inside there, but will come down to here. So being that I don't want it to be straight up and down, I want it to stay out a little bit like the original landing gear. That's why I do this. So that's it right there. The tricky part is to make two of them exactly the same, so the landing gears are even. I have mine, so that's the width right there, is 7.9mm. So the key is to try to get two of them exactly the same so the landing gear comes out at the same angle. And then all you do is just take that little gear out right there. It just slides right out. It's actually not that big of a deal. It actually only took me maybe half an hour to actually do them once the epoxy's set up. And then see if I'm focusing on the switches. So there's actually one right there and one right there. It just travels back and forth and turns them on and off. What you don't want to do is bind it up and have it go off like that. You actually want to use the switches and try not to wreck that worm gear. So other than that, the retracts themselves, or the landing gear themselves I should say, here's an old one that I have with the axle shaft. What I had before was a silicone washer that I had in here, and then I just slid it inside the tube and then tried to tighten this nut up as best I could and just kind of squish it inside the tube to hold it there, but it still wiggled a little bit, and it was a little bit sloppy, and I didn't like it. So what I do now is I took some shoe goo, just some regular old shoe goo that you can buy anywhere, and I actually put it inside the tube and then took the axle shaft and just twisted it around and around and kept twisting it about right there, I guess. And you can see it actually fits in there really good. And the reason why you want to leave it out a little bit is, there's an old one, my other side there I have, is you have to chamfer or grind down this edge right here, and that is the edge that's going to rest up against this nut, or this bolt, sorry. So it slides in here. There's 2 set screws, one on each side, and then what happens when it rests up there, you want to just lightly grind that until it just fits perfectly right up against that bolt, so it's not bound right up there too tight, and then it's not too loose that you're going to have any slop. And that's the key, is to just to get it in, get it mounted, and then fit it. Like slide it in, slide it out, and just grind just a little bit so it just sits in there nice and flat, so it's flush right here, and then it's just nice and just flush, just touching this bolt right here, and then it'll stay nice and tight. And then when it's resting up against it, also the bolt takes some of the strain off the retracts as well. So hopefully that's my theory anyway. The other thing you have to modify is the mounting plate right here. So here I have one that I've modified against a stock one. So you just grind a little bit of material, in here, and that just makes room for this centerpiece right here, and just so it's not touching anything. And the other thing is the other bolt hole is right there, and you just want to open that up to get the other bolt hole, which will be this one right here. You just have to open that up just a little bit. And other than that, it's pretty straightforward. It is carbon fiber, so you want to take the proper precautions when grinding, like use a mask or be outside. Dust isn't very good for you. And the other thing is on the retracts themselves, on the outside housing, scoop it back together, is there's a hump right here, and you have to grind that off a bit. And that you can actually take the nut out if you wanted to. I wasn't sure if this was going to work or not, so I didn't want to totally wreck the retract and take it out. But you grind both sides. If you take it right off, if you grind that right off and take the nut out, then you don't have to do this, but I left mine, so I did. I just grind a little dish in here. You don't have to go this big with it, but just fit it to make it whatever works. So just grind out that little dish and then just open it up in here a little bit, and the bolt hole right there is all you have to do to modify the mounts for it. And other than that, I think that's about it. I am happy with how they turned out. I don't like these motor mounts. I have some Sunny Sky motors, and I'm not happy with the motor mounts. I don't want to have to modify them to make them fit. I'd rather have a proper mount, and I don't care for this style anyway. So I ordered the new style, so I'm just waiting for those to come in. And I also got a APM 2.6 flight controller, so I'm playing with that now, and I'll modify that to fit and try to get all the parts and pieces for that. But hopefully that helps a little bit to explain the retracts a little more if you want to try that setup and try it yourself. It's actually not that hard at all. So hopefully that helps you out a little bit, and if you have any questions, feel free to post something in the comments below, and I will also add links to in the description to all the parts that I've used for this modification. Okay, thanks a lot.